So I have a tonneau cover on my truck, and the Nisan Frontier, at least in the model that I have, does not have stake bed pockets, and I won't be able to put a kayak on top of the truck. So I'm trying a bracket I found online. These are designed to go with your truck bed. Most people that buy these usually would use them to put like some sort of a rack or a bed tent, rooftop tent type of setup on their pickup. But the idea I have is I'm going to have these sitting underneath the rails for the tonneau cover and up above, and that should allow me to make a rack for this part to mount the kayak on, and then depending if I want to make it the height of the cab, I'll just have a crossbar and a riser, or if I want to have it so it's down behind the cab, and I'll use my receiver hitch with a T-post in it for more aerodynamic carrying the kayak. But either way, I'm just going to show you how I'm doing this. So I measured on both sides. I'm going to have the same distance, and I'm just going to simply remove this piece of foam sealing that's used to seal the rail. They glue to this part of the tonneau cover rail, and then they just sit on top of the bed rail, which this is the lowest bottom of the line Frontier, so it just has plastic rail caps with nothing underneath them, and that will allow the bracket to sit right there. And I may even have room to put a piece of foam or something to seal if I think it's necessary, but I don't think it is. And this should allow them to stick up above the rail the way I want it to. So this right here is how they sit on the truck. I got the two bolts. I'm going to come up with a block that it bolts into right there on the bottom that will lock it in place. Make risers for the top. And the tonneau cover rail will sit over it. You can see the cutaway I made right there. And once I line the tonneau cover rail up here, this bracket stuck in place. There we go. That will not interfere with putting the tonneau cover off and on. I'll have to finagle it a little bit. It'll work. But it will allow me to use the tonneau cover and have the two brackets sticking up, one on either side. I haven't put that one on yet. And when I get there, I can now put a crossbar that the bolts or pins or something will be removable when I want it and installed the rest of the time. So just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like, I'm going to stand up like that. As far as clearance for putting the tonneau cover off and on, it's only going to catch the very edge, which you can work around. And on the inside, it sits down like that. The bolt holes are the perfect height for bolting into something to go up on the inside. I'm just going to figure out what. And you can see where the foam has been cut, but it's the perfect height. So this is me getting ready to drill them. What I did is I made these pieces of angle iron shaped like that, put it up underneath the rail like so, and put the clamp holding it in place. And now all I got to do is just drill these two holes, and this whole bracket will be set in place the way it needs to be so that it's clamped onto the rail. So I'm taking pieces of foam rubber that I cut out from underneath the tonneau cover rail, cutting them in half, and then they're going to go on each end of this backup piece, and this will help protect it from digging into the paint underneath the rail or wearing into it at all. Okay, so the actual mounting, these foam pieces we'll learn after a while. Like that. Bolt goes through. Capture the nut, the washer. And this, once I get the bolt in the other one, I'll just clamp it down and that will hold it securely. So here using the clamp to just suck it up tight while I tighten the last bit on these two bolts. Now what I used was 3/8 16 thread bolts, just simply because the head is perfectly captured in the slot in this bracket. The square part that's underneath the head on a carriage bolt. So now I won't have anything sticking into the bed to catch stuff on or tear anything up that I'm carrying. The bolts and nuts all are back that way. So this way, get it tight. Let's screw down good. Just using a big C-clamp to pull it all tight. And then the same thing with the other end. Clamp it down good and tight so that I know that the material is all drawn up tight on the rail, and this will hold good. That's good and tight. And now the real thing I'm worried about is this direction travel. This is the rails, but that'll hold, and these will be nice and tight, and then I'll have a bracket going across the top. So I'll show you how I put that together next. So you got this one mounted and that one mounted. They each have a 1 foot piece underneath the rail, clamping up and out on both sides. So now it's just a matter of making my risers and crossbar. So here we go, measuring from the ground up. And I would say those bars are looking straight across the top, 71 inches. So now I know how high I need to make the risers from my rear bar to have a nice level carry. So these work out to 2.5 inches wide between the two ears. And I'm going to use 2x4s, which I know some people will have a problem with, for my risers. I'm carrying a foam boat that weighs maybe not even 40 pounds. So this isn't like a rooftop tent going on there or anything crazy like that. So with my 2x4 cut and the block clamped in place, I get the height that I need to make it up to 6 feet, and I'll cut off whatever is extra. And then I'm just going to drill right through these two holes and put bolts. And when I go to drill the hole, I want to drill right here on the inboard end of that slot. That slot, I believe, is so you can change the angle. I'm not really sure exactly, but I want to be here on the inside so that the bolt is resisting the forces pulling this way against the bracket. So using a spade bit, bored through these two 2x4s, and hole is not quite perfect angle, and that's actually good because it kind of binds the tube on. I used a 1-inch spade bit because that's what my pipe diameter worked out to. You're gonna have to vary that depending on whatever pipe you're using. And then I cut the 2x4s off more or less across the top. I could reinforce this with metal brackets or maybe thicken up the wood here, something more rounded so it won't catch the boat. But I've got a trip and I have to have this done, so it is done. Now I've got to go pack. But throw a boat on just so you can see what it looks like, and then we'll be done. So here you go, all loaded up and boat tied on, bikes, some room for luggage and boat gear and whatever. And I just got to tighten up that bow line, it'll be ready to go. This front one is a shortened strap. It actually worked out to be the perfect length. It was actually for a different boat that I set it up for. This one has a much extra long piece here, so I will probably take and shorten this to about here for whatever boat I normally would be carrying on here. But this is only one way I plan on carrying the boats. I actually plan on making a shorter version of these risers and using my receiver hitch, have a crossbar that comes up and have the boat be able to ride so that it's right in the wind shadow of the cab, right behind the back window. I'll show you that whenever I get around to it.